Welcome to Protagonist Pub. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. Okay, it is a unexpectedly rainy and stormy Monday. It wasn't in the forecast last time I checked the weather on Sunday, so it kind of derailed all the plans for today, pushed filming back, but apparently a lull. So I'm going to film during the lull. And let's do some housekeeping first. I hit 300 plus subscribers over the weekend. I am floored. I appreciate each and every one of you. For those of you that are new here, welcome. I hope you find a variety of books you read that you may or may not have heard about. I read across genres. I'm a reader, not a genre specific type of person. So I read anything from hard sci-fi to Western Christian romance. So I read everything in between. I am still just blown away that 300 of you that are not my family members tune in and listen to me talk about books. So I'm humbled and I am grateful and I am truly appreciative of all of you. So that would be the mailman. So we're going to pause for a minute. Editing Tammy. Apparently, the introductory to my reading for last week got deleted, or I failed to hit record this morning. So you're getting Editing Tammy to reintroduce it. It may not be the smoothest transition to the first book, but I will endeavor to try. So last week I read a total of what I would say are 3 cozies. I had 1 DNF. I had 1 soft DNF. And I had a audiobook. And I had a completed physical read. So I think this is about where the next clip comes in. The first book I DNF'd this week was Nice Work, Nora November. Author's name is right here. I have forgotten it. This was a DNF for me. It was a narc from NetGalley. And what follows is my fair and honest review of the arc. I am grateful for the arc, but this was a very quick DNF for me. Probably less than 20 pages in. I knew I was not the intended audience of this book. It wasn't going to work for me, and there were better uses for my time. So, it was a DNF. It may work for you. Your mileage may differ. The book released June 4th. Dog in the afterlife. It's never described as heaven. And goes on for a couple of pages. It's all very nice and it's fine. And then Nora sees the light and returns to the land of living. And she wakes up in the hospital. Turns out she's been in a coma for, 9 days. And she wakes up to the most abusive, toxic, vile people that she calls family. And it was very quickly, sorry, the bird is a little chatty this morning. It was very quickly evident that Nora is the definition of a people pleaser. She does not have a spine, and her family is all atrocious. And I don't generally have the patience for that. and I wasn't going to read it this weekend. So I DNF'd it. I was clearly not the anxiety-ridden 30-year-old that this was geared toward. So, and that's fine. The next book was a Goodreads giveaway win. That was The Busybody by Kemper Donovan. As you know, I've been looking forward to this for a while. It sounded interesting. And again, don't like the protagonist. I really, really don't like her. She is arrogant and condescending and preachy. And I have enough to read in my life. Well, there's no such thing as enough to read. I have enough on the June pile of possibilities that I don't need to make myself suffer through this book. So, I am not suffering through this book. It is going in the donation pile. Somebody else can have it. Again, not the intended audience. Okay. The soft DNF for the week was Dear George, Dear Mary by Mary Cavalli. Oh, wow. I really want to read this book. I don't know if it was my mood by the time I got to this book. I don't know if it is actually the writing style of the book. But I read the first 2 or 3 chapters, and I read the first 2 chapters. I struggled. The first chapter opens up in 1756, and then chapter 2 is 1753, and then it jumps again to 1756. It is not an easily accessible fiction read, and it isn't right off the bat. The first character you're introduced to is the titular Mary in the title, and she's not approachable, she's not likable, she seems like a 2D cardboard cutout of a character. And doesn't get any better when George comes into the picture in chapter 2, and it is a very poor introduction of George Washington. It is a very convoluted excuse me, introduction to Washington, and it is the least sympathetic, relatable reading of George Washington I have ever read. Biographies of George Washington present a much more human George than George in chapter 2. And I'm going to soft DNF it for now. It was not winning me over. Was not winning me over at all. So, okay. Books I did read this week. I read 2 cozies. I listened to a book on Audible Plus. I read a physical cozy, and I made my way through some of the Wave Kings. So it was a very good reading week overall. So let's talk about the Audible Plus book first. That was Finding Love at Hedgehog Hollow. Author's name on the cover picture. This was an Audible Plus listen. It goes off of Audible Plus on the 19th of the month. It is a romantic comedy. No, it is not a romantic comedy. That is wrong. It is best categorized as women's fiction in which love makes an appearance, but it is really a women's fiction book. Excuse me, he needs to go outside in the rain. Okay, Bird is outside in his cage, protected from the weather, but it's where he wanted to be. So, back to Love at Hedgehog Hollow. The book opens up and we meet our protagonist, Sam. She is at her sister's wedding to her former boyfriend, which she broke up with so that her cousin could fall in love with and marry. Things happen at the wedding. It all blows up in Sam's face, and we learn that Sam is a people pleaser. Her mother treats her abhorrently. Her father makes excuses for her mother while trying to love his daughter. And her cousin and her aunts and uncles all side with her cousin on her wedding day, and Sam is in essence ostracized from her family. Coincidentally, Sam has a new job that lets her move an hour or so from her family. And during the course of the wedding, while she's out running an errand for her cousin, she stumbles, she's lost, she stops at this farmhouse to get help, and she saves an elderly man's life. And this is all where her new job is. So, as the book progresses, Sam continues to check in on the elderly man, and they form a relationship, and Sam begins to learn to stick up for herself. And it is in baby steps. This isn't a sudden revelation in which she's like, oh, I need to stop being a doormat. She's constantly trying to mend bridges. She's constantly trying to improve herself and yet change herself to make her mother love her. And eventually the wonderful old man, whose name is Thomas, dies and leaves his estate solely to Sam, on the condition that she start the dream that Thomas and his wife had of starting and running a hedgehog rescue. And this just turns into this very charming voyage of self-discovery and realization that sometimes family drama happens, and some of it is recoverable, and sometimes you can heal past wounds. It may not be the same as it was before, but you can heal the past and you can start again. And some relationships are not recoverable, and they are so toxic into your own life that you have to, despite your deepest desire, let them go. And Sam learns all these lessons. I will tell you, I almost DNF'd this book in the first couple of hours. It's not long. It's like, I want to say it's under 10 hours. But I wasn't feeling, great. I was just achy, like I was getting a cold or something. So I just continued to listen. I was curled up on the couch with the dogs and the hubby, and it was fine. And I'm really glad I didn't, because in the end, I ended up loving this book. It was, there are 2 points in this book where I just simply, like, sobbed. And Dave's like, are you okay? Do I need to, you know, stop whatever I'm doing so that we can fix it? I'm like, no, there's nothing to fix. It's fine. This was an unexpected read. It isn't one I would have picked up but for Audible Plus, and so I am thankful. Will I pick up another one from the author? If they're on Audible Plus, yes. If they're available at my library, sure. Will I spend a credit? No. It appears that her catalog falls under my credit self-imposed limit. If I'm going to spend a credit, if I'm spending credits on books, they need to be 10 plus hours, not under that. So overall, yes, I enjoyed this book. Is it 100% clean? No. Is it incredibly spicy? No. Is it open door? No. Is it, everybody's spice level differs, so I can't tell you not to read it because I didn't find it objectionable, and I really find that kind of stuff objectionable on audiobook, and this one didn't bother me in the slightest. Did it add to the book? No. Did it detract from the book? No. Was it necessary? No. But hey, it is a reflection of life. Okay. That was the Audible book for the week. What else did I read? I read 2 books by Jeannie Martz. The first was Take the Honey and Run. This is the first book in the series. Series name is right here. And this is a cozy mystery. And it takes place in Colorado. And it has a very lively cast of characters. And I cannot, for the life of me, suddenly remember our protagonist's name. It's Bailey. So Bailey comes home because her grandmother has a broken leg or broken foot and needs help around her honey farm. Bailey is a mystery writer in Denver, and she has a 12-year-old daughter, Daisy. So she returns home, and as she pulls into her grandmother's driveway, she hears her grandmother verbally accosting the mayor of the town, threatening to kill him if he sets foot on her property again. You can all imagine what happens from there. And what ensues is this cleverly written, well-plotted, character-driven cozy mystery in which we have a 12-year-old Daisy, a early mid-30s Bailey and her best friend Evie, her high school sweetheart Sawyer, who is now the sheriff, her grandmother, her grandmother's circle of friends, and Evie's grandmother, and you have this wonderful cast of characters that all contribute something to the overall course of the novel. I read it in one day. I loved it. It was worth staying up for me for, an extra hour to finish the book. And I absolutely fell in love with these characters. There's a hint of romance. The clues are all there. It is a show me, not tell me cozy, which, as you all know, is what I prefer. And I just ate it up. I thoroughly enjoyed the twists and the turns and the characters, and the descriptions were all fantastic. This is an easy recommendation. Easy recommendation. The second book in the series is Kill or Be Killed. This was a NetGalley arc for me. It released on June 4th. So, Kill or Be Killed was a NetGalley arc. This is my fair and honest review. I loved this one too. Again, I stayed up a little later than normal to finish it. And it was a sophomore book in the series, and it did not suffer from sophomore syndrome. That is one of the highest compliments I can pay to a sophomore book. It built on the first book. Characters became more fully developed. The romance blossomed. More characters in town were introduced. The plotting was just as tight and just as twisty. Honey again was a central recurring theme. All of our characters grew. They left the thread for book 3. This is definitely a series I will continue. It is definitely a series I am enjoying. And I am very happy to go recommend it if you need a good cozy that has character building and a charming town and young people and old people and middle people and characters you will remember. Please go pick up this series by Jeannie Martz. Okay. And my physical cozy read for the week was Because I Could Not Stop for Death by Amanda Flower. This is the first book in her Emily Dickinson series. And I am not a huge Amanda Flower fan. Every other book I have tried by her has been a giant miss for me. I just haven't fallen in love with her writing. So I was going into this, A, looking forward to it, and B, skeptical that it would be carried off well. Literary characters in cozy mysteries are becoming a thing. It started with the Jane Austen series by Stephanie Barron. Well, maybe not started, but that's the one I can recall off the top of my head. There is a Bronte Sisters series by Bella Ellis. First one is right here, The Vanished Bride. I do not recommend that series at all. It was bad. So I had mixed expectations going into this book. I enjoy her poetry. Not that I read poetry a lot, but when I was in school, I did enjoy her poetry. And I knew enough about her going in that, you know, I was comfortable with whom Emily Dickinson is as a person. So I was cautiously optimistic. I am happy to say that I thoroughly enjoyed this one. It opens up with Willa, who is one of the female protagonists, the other being Emily, applying for a job at the Dickinson household. And she arrives and she's, you know, it's January, she's been splashed, she's covered in mud, she's dripping wet. And the housekeeper says, you know, thank you, but. And Emily steps in and says, nope, this is the one, hire her. So Willa ends up working at the Dickinson household. And very shortly into the book, her younger brother is murdered. And because he's working class and the Dickinsons are not. They're, you know, at the top of Amherst society. Willa is very unhappy to learn that her brother's murder is ruled an accident, and she ends up confiding in Emily, and Emily decides that they're going to solve the murder. And you don't want to give too much of this one away. I will say that in comparison to, let's say, the Jeannie Martz books I just talked about, the writing in the Emily Dickinson book is much more stilted and less expressive, which fits Emily's personality and the Dickinson household and society at the time, but it isn't as necessarily approachable. This book may be a much more excellent audio read. I do have the second book on loan from the library as an audiobook, so we shall see. Despite the stilted formal language, I very much enjoyed this book. I enjoyed the glimpse into Amherst society. I enjoyed the glimpse into DC society, the subplot. It was all very well done, and I'm looking forward to the second book. I am looking forward to another adventure with Willa and Emily. It is one of the better cozy mysteries featuring a literary figure. There are several more I need to explore, but this is by far one of the better ones. So I was very happy about that. And I got to check it off my list. I have been wanting to read this since I got it for my birthday. Now I have. So I'm happy about that. Okay. What else did I read this week? Yeah, I think that's it. Other than I did continue on in The Way of Kings. I don't know if they're showing up very well. Maybe not. I have begun tabbing. Here's the tab list so far. I remember why I fell in love with this book on Kindle. I just don't think it is a series that lends itself well to being read electronically. I keep referring back to the map. I have all kinds of things tabbed. I'm seeing relationships I didn't understand the first time. And I am just thoroughly invested, and it is very hard not to, just ignore all the things I have to do to finish it. But it's 1,000 pages. So I figure if I let myself read 100 pages a day, if I can control myself to 100 pages a day, I'll be good. So, Sanderson writes so well, and it's so approachable. And, yeah. There's nothing about Sanderson I don't love. So that is pretty much what I read this week. What am I going to read? That is a good question. I am thinking about doing a vlog. I'm very bad at doing them. I have started them before and then always deleted them. So we will see if that happens. I don't want to... I have a couple of arcs I need to get done this week, hopefully. So, yeah. It will be a good reading week. Of that I am sure. If for no other reason, I will read The Way of Kings and be perfectly happy. What did you read last week? Leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.